So the message today is trust in God's plan. So I'm going to give you 3 points to consider, during the whole thing. So when things don't go as planned, we ask, why would God let this happen to us? And point 2, no matter what happens, we need to maintain our trust in God's plan because we know that He has a plan, and in the end it's going to work out. And then 3, along with trusting in God's plan, we have to make good choices. So, my story today, unfortunately, the ending was kind of spoiled, but you'll have to stick along. Alright, so everyone probably knows the story of Daniel. So Daniel in the lion's den is a great example of trusting in God's plan. When King Darius created a new law forbidding anyone to worship anyone but the king himself, the punishment would be being thrown into a den of hungry lions, which, as most of you can assume, would lead to death. So David had trust in God's plan, and he continued to still worship. And he was therefore thrown inside the lion's den. And then when they came back, he was removed from the lion's den with not a scratch. And he put his trust in God, and God got him out of there. So many times in our lives, we have moments that we may ask why God would make us feel rejection, pain, struggle, and failure. Those times we need to know that God has a plan for everyone. So while in the moment we might ask, why would God let this happen to me? In the long run, we must know that it will work out for the better. So my most recent experience with this is a college experience. I'm sure if you have had kids that have gone to college, you know the stresses that come along with this. And so senior year is very important because it's a point in someone's life when they have to decide where they're going to be spending the next 4 years all alone. You start by trying to select what colleges you want to go to. You narrow it down, then you have to submit all the applications in September, and you wait and you find out what happens. So in the beginning of the year, I had a pretty hefty list of colleges I applied to. For early action, I sent my application to UMaine Orono, UMass Lowell, and Wentworth. I slowly started hearing back, and I started getting accepted to colleges. I was really happy that I got into those because they're all really prestigious colleges. But the big 4 that I was really hoping I get into is my number 1, the Air Force Academy, University of Colorado Boulder, United States Coast Guard Academy, or Virginia Tech. So throughout the process, I'd pray every night that God would help me get into one of these colleges and my grades, but I still have to pray to God. Didn't have the highest SATs. And gradually I started hearing back. First was Colorado Boulder. I got an email. I was so happy when it said that I got in. Unfortunately, college is very expensive, and I received 0 financial aid. So with a tuition of $55,000 per year, I was not going to go to whatever school. Second was Virginia Tech. They had accepted me as well, but they had not accepted me into the program I desired to study, the engineering program. They accepted me just into a general university studies program. The third college I heard back from was the United States Coast Guard Academy. They had just flat out denied me. So that was unfortunate. And then, so my number 1, last college I was waiting to hear back from, so I thought, was the Air Force Academy. So that was my number 1 the whole time. An application at an United States Service Academy is a little different than at any other school. So you first have the general application, which is very long. You have to send in all your test scores, GPA, all your grades and everything. And then you, on top of that, have to get evaluated for your moral character by one of the liaisons. And you also have to take a physical test that is very demanding, ranging from push-ups and sit-ups to mile runs and sprints. So I knew it was going to be a reach because it's a very prestigious and difficult school to get into. I was skeptical from the beginning, but halfway through the year I had received a congressional nomination, which boosted my morale, and I was starting to think that this could really happen. I was really hoping that it was going to happen, and unfortunately the fateful day that my dad and I had finished the Boston Marathon this year, I got the white envelope with the words, "We regret to inform you, but we cannot accept you at this fall semester at the United States Air Force Academy. I was heartbroken, and unlike Daniel, I began to panic. I really wanted to go to this school, and I was constantly asking myself, why would God let this happen to me? Why would He make me feel pain and rejection? Like, I figured I was a good person, and everyone says good things happen to good people. So then a few weeks later, I received an email from University of Wyoming explaining their interest in me for their Air Force RCC program. I knew I wanted to go out west and explore a different part of the country, so my mom and I quickly hopped on a plane, we flew out, and when I got there, I discovered it was not exactly what I was hoping for. I'm sure my dad wasn't happy when we got out to Wyoming, and I called that first night saying, this is not the place for me. Again, feeling upset, we left after the tour and drove back to Boulder that night so we could stay and fly out the next morning from Colorado. When we were checking in, the desk clerk asked me why I was visiting. I started to explain my dilemma about how I really wanted to go to Boulder and got no financial aid, and she explained how she went to Boulder, and how I wanted to go out west, and she explained to me how her brother went to a school called Montana State in Bozeman, Montana. She explained how it was a lot like Boulder in many ways, and I would get many of the same experiences. And so the next week, with May 1st quickly approaching, we decided to fly out to Montana. And long story short, as soon as I got there, I knew this was the place for me. So you're probably wondering why I just explained 5 minutes of the ups and downs of the college experience. You've probably heard several times. And like many, I did not like hearing no's and denial letters, but in the end it all worked out. And I'm going to a place where in the beginning I never thought that I would go. I had never heard of that school before. When I go to Montana State, I will be participating in the Air Force ROTC program with a goal of serving my country as a pilot in the United States Air Force. Nice. And I can't wait for this experience. And yes, sure, there were a lot of roadblocks that I was not expecting, but in the end, we just need to know that God has a plan for all of us. So I leave you with 5 points. So trust in God's plan for you. Love God and know that God loves you. Commit to strengthening your faith every day, whether it's sunny or rainy. Make good choices, and each of us will end up exactly where we're supposed to be in daily prayer. Amen. Amen. Thank the Sunday school teachers, Mr. Welpley and Ms. Gagne, for helping me. I never thought I would be giving a sermon. I did. Mom, you can stop holding your breath in it. And thank you to Pastor Susan for helping me through this, and Mrs. Sykes too for the whole confirmation.
Thank you.